Me personally, I would think like with people do, with the quarantine, that with all this stuff going on, I would think they should be more patient because things are going to take longer. They should have been
True.
learning patience already now.
Because I'm slightly ashamed of this project.
Vibe presents A Friend with Issues.
And welcome back to another thrilling episode of A Friend with Issues. I'm Vibe, and I bring to you a new friend every week to discuss something that bugs them, that they want to gripe about, that they want to complain about. Today, we've got Charmaine here, and thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, Charmaine. Before we get to today's topic, how do we know each other?
We know each other because we met each other at the 2017 Star Celebration.
Good times, good times. We also, if you want to look at the episodes, I think it's episode 3. You're in it.
Yeah, I wasn't really doing much because then my cousin jumped in and he started taking over the whole interview.
You guys were naturals.
Really funny.
I'm natural. So you guys did some of the best work I ever did. Is like literally it was a 6-part series. It's some of the best editing I've ever done. There's a lot of footage, but it's great. So, Charmaine, what brings us here today?
You had asked me to be part of this podcast.
Yes, of course. I think I've asked everyone, but what topic beyond that? Being so meta. Beyond that, what is grinding your gear? What is making your ass itch?
I think, like I said, it's just like people being very impatient these days. I mean, I know people naturally are impatient, but I feel like it's worse. And me personally, I would think like what people do, with the quarantine, that with all this stuff going on, I would think they should be more patient because things are going to take longer. They should have been learning patience already now. I don't know. That's just me.
No,
But
I
then
totally
again,
get it.
I'm a really patient person myself.
Well,
So
you're a lovely patient person. No, I absolutely agree. But I mean, impatience is. I mean, I work in healthcare, and there's a customer service aspect to healthcare, and I've always wanted to say to a patient, where have you gone that serves the public that doesn't have a wait? Where have you gone that serves the public that is concrete on time? I'm not saying we shouldn't strive for that, but what I am saying though is having a little bit of understanding. And I believe the reason why people are so impatient is because they lack understanding or lack empathy or lack the ability to identify with doing the best that they can. So what is any particular story or example that comes to mind when you think of why you can't stand impatient people?
well, I mean, my last job, when we had like the whole quarantine hit and when COVID was still new to us and it was coming to the States, we had a situation at where I was working. So they had to shut it down. And then to keep us, the people who weren't, who tested negative, to keep us employed, they just moved us to the call center. And I came from the call center originally at my last job, but it was so different this time because the phones are always blowing up. People were like yelling about being on hold for 20, 30 minutes or just to get into, to be heard. And it's like, well, sorry, but you got to understand too, all the branches are closed. We're the only contact. So you are going to wait like 2, 3 hours on the phone to get somebody on the line.
Right,
Because
of course.
I had to explain to them because we're also a call center where every person is our person. So we're not timed. We're not gonna rush you off of this phone call. If it's gonna take me 2 hours to talk to you, it's gonna take me 2 hours. So yeah, that's gonna push somebody else behind you wait time. And I think
It's
when
funny
I
you say that. Yeah.
they like it a little better, like, oh, okay, so you're gonna spend your time with me. I'm like, yes. I go, that's why it's another reason why you waited so long on the phone. I said, and also to accommodate you guys, we're opening an extra hour early and closing an extra hour late. So that was fine, but you still get people who like they don't care. It doesn't matter. It's just like, well, I want to be helped right now. It's like, okay, that's fine. I'll do my best, but don't be rude to me because I'll be rude back to you.
Yeah.
Well, which I hate because then it's like I'm not that person. I don't want to be that person, but then sometimes even my
You get
button can
pushed,
get
but you
pushed.
get
But
pushed,
you know what? I'm gonna place you on hold right now for even though I don't need to, and I'm just like, because I'm gonna go look into that, but I'm not. I'm just sitting there like, oh, this person. I'm gonna get up, but I'm gonna go get some water. I'll make you wait some more.
Exactly. Because the thing of impatient people, because usually you think of impatient people, you think of rude. It makes you not want to help them. It makes you not want to go above and beyond. You just want to get
Yeah.
the. So I be working in healthcare, yes. And what's the biggest issue in healthcare? My doctor, I have a 9 o'clock appointment. Why am I not being seen exactly 9 o'clock, right? And I tell the patient the same thing you said. I said the doctor, every patient is allowed as much time with their doctor as they want to for that visit to allow them to get all their issues ironed out. Not every patient is done in 15 minutes, and every extra minute a patient takes with their doctor, it pushes us all behind. But you need to understand that if you need that, if it was you, you'd want that extra time to discuss
Mhm.
it. You want that extra time to air out all your stuff. I've said it to many times. Nobody cares sometimes, but I totally agree. So when you said that, I was like, yes, I say that exact same thing to patients, and it's ridiculous. They all say, because we don't have a I guess a quota. We'll take as many patients that puts on a roster. But when you have unlimited patients on a doctor's schedule, it means that everybody in the end is urgent and emergency. When everybody's urgent and emergency, no one's urgent and emergency. You just got to hit one at a time, And I find it to be funny. Well, what I find worse when it comes to impatient people are those that wait till the last minute and then have the nerve to be,
Oh
and
yeah.
then have the nerve to be impatient about it. I went to a specialist for my son many moons ago, and I'll never forget this. It said on the doctor's, like, the little thing that you close, I don't
Yeah.
know what it's called. It said, your failure to plan does not constitute an emergency on my part. This is at a doctor's office. When I saw that, I said, I
Wish I
totally
could do
agree.
something like that.
I totally agree. Is that don't come in saying, "Oh my God, I'm out of medication." Well, you knew you were running out 2 days ago, a day ago, 3 days ago, a
Mhm.
week ago. Why are you waiting? I understand it's heart medication or whatever it is, but why did you wait till you had absolutely zero pills and now you're rushing in here saying it's life or death? Where's the accountability? And that's what I'm all about. Is where's the accountability for people? When it comes to certain things like this. So, God, well, you hit a nail for me because I
Yeah, and
just.
I'm experiencing that right now at my current job.
Mhm.
I'm working at a vet clinic, and you do get those people who like wait at that. Oh, my dog was feeling okay. So here's an example. I'm not going to tell you where I work because I
Of
don't know
course not.
who's going to be watching
Listening.
this, but somebody, and that's another thing that really, but like my last job, it's humans. Like humans are stupid. Yeah. Pets, it's like they don't know. You're supposed to be their voice. You're supposed to be their parent. You're supposed to, that's like, look, my baby's sitting right here right now.
Yes. Oh.
So it's like, so I had this when I had this call come in, like, oh, my dog to be seen.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, he got hit by a car 3 days ago.
What?
3 days ago. Yeah, yeah, and his back's like this. I think he's paralyzed, and like I'm like, yeah, but but you can't get mad at him because I'm like 3 days ago, and now you're waiting to bring this dog in, and yet, so what? If you got hit by a car 3 days ago, would you want to wait to be seen by a doctor? No, you're gonna come in right away, and stuff like that gets me because you still have to like put them in the system. And then, yeah, then later on you tell them like, okay, and again, remember, we're still considered a hospital. So like
Mm-hmm.
like how you tell them, we have this many patients ahead of you. The doctor is going to spend their time with each patient like it's
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
appropriate. So you are going to expect to wait several hours because just like when you're at a doctor, that's what I try to tell them. And some people, like you said, they're like, okay, they're understanding, but some people, I think just because they think it's a dog or a cat, that they're more simple, that this person then started constantly calling in. Me and the other receptionists were like, you know what, you're just blowing up our phones
Mm-hmm.
when we could be helping other clients that are calling in that also need to be checked in, or we're setting the appointments and bugging like, well, I've been out here this many hours. I'm like, well, you know what? And then in my head, I was kind of mad because I thought, okay, so you're mad you're waiting 2 hours in line, but you came at a busy time. We still have like 10 other people ahead of you. We had a nurse go out real quick and triage the patients. Obviously, You waited 3 days, so that patient is okay to be waiting, and you're yelling at us. But you waited 3 days to bring
Right.
this patient in.
Exactly.
And then
Exactly.
what got me even more mad is when we finally saw this patient, the doctor then tells the owner, okay, this is the treatment, this is what needs to be done, this is the estimated cost. What did they say? No, I don't want to do that. I'll just pay the visit fee. And then they took the dog back. And I
Yep.
was like, really?
Yep.
This dog obviously needs like all this medical care, but you don't want to pay for it.
Yep.
And you made it suffer for 3 days. Now a couple more hours yelling at us just to take it back.
Yep.
It's that one I'm always gonna remember, because I was just like, ooh, I want to go out and go punch this person.
Right.
But you
It's
can't
just,
do that. You can't do that,
well, I mean, you can, you just shouldn't. There's a difference. You can, but you shouldn't. We at Friends with Issues do not condone punching pet owners in the face, but still, you can. No, I totally agree, and that's the funny thing about it is that like, here's an example. Patient saw the doctor, and the medication isn't covered by their insurance, and they need to change. I said, okay, I'm going to submit it in basket, which is a message, and it's going to take 24 hours to get a response, because doctor has other patients and they get these messages, but just give me 24 hours. So the patient calls back, literally 2 hours later. I repeat the same thing to him, sir. Like I said to you, it takes at least 24 hours, give it a day. I put it as high urgency, I promise. The very next morning, the patient's wife comes into the facility, and I just happen to be at the front. And she comes and she explains to me the story. I'm like, I know exactly what you're talking about. I said, ma'am, I explained to him that it's going to take 24 hours. The doctor's aware of it. She's got to go through his charts. She's got to find out what's an alternative, what can and cannot cover by the insurance. It's not something that's done like this. And she understood, but you called back two or three times, and then you sent your wife in the very next day, not less than 24 hours, by the way, to say the same thing all over again. Again, I'm not saying it wasn't urgent to you, but you're given instructions. And I know me, how I am. I would listen. Now, if 24 hours or 48 hours passes, sure, I'll call back. I'll show up. But not, I would give the staff the time that they requested. That's basically what I'm saying. And it's not just that. It's healthcare. It's customer service. It's telephone. It's fast food. It's just ridiculous when it comes to how impatient we've become. And you think that most people can empathize, but it's like when you are a customer, you forget that you have a job. When you're a customer, you forget that you don't like it when people do it to you. For example, I can't stand it when somebody just walks up to my desk, just walks right up and then starts talking. I can't stand it. I didn't greet you. I didn't even acknowledge you. I probably didn't even see you most times. It drives me nuts. So when I go to like a gas station, anywhere that has a desk, I don't approach the desk until I'm acknowledged and asked to come over.
Yeah.
So one time, because I know I don't like it. So one time I'm in a gas station and the guy's done in front of me, and I don't move up immediately to the cash register. They're still closing out their till or whatever they're doing. The guy behind me says, "Go ahead." I said, "No." He said, "Well, go ahead, or I'll just I'll go ahead of you." I said, "Sir, I've not been acknowledged. I've not been asked to come through. I'll wait until she tells me it's okay to come over. So just wait." Kind of like that. Now, of course, eventually she did say, next in line, but that's just what it is. I know what it's like as an employee, and what bugs me, and I like to visit that when I'm off the clock. People, however, are hypocritical. The same people that don't like it when they're on the clock will do the exact same behavior to workers that are when they're off the clock. It's the weirdest thing. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I mean, I meant like, hopefully she doesn't see it. She doesn't get mad at me. But my sister's like I said earlier, my mom always says, "Oh, you took your sister's patient. She's very impatient."
Mhm.
And I know she doesn't like certain things that happens at work, because we work together now
Right.
at the same location. But she doesn't do the same job I do.
Right.
But she's very impatient. Sometimes I kind of tell, like, I don't tell her anything, but I just feel in my head like, geez, you're just being like how these other people are that you complain
Right.
about when we're at work. Like, just slow down, like,
Yeah,
So, but
take a breath.
I don't say stuff, because she is my older sister, and then sometimes it's sometimes certain things are going to get open to a confrontation that doesn't need to happen.
Right.
So that's why I don't say nothing. But I also know, like, you're basically acting like somebody we were just complaining about, or, oh, you need to. But no, I see it. Like, even at, like, when I gone myself, like when I go to the grocery store, I see how people start complaining, or I overhear, like, when people, like, one time I was in line at Smith's, and I didn't think the line was that long. There was probably like 10 people waiting in line when they were really more counting people to go in before,
Mhm.
when it was first, the quarantine first started in different, because each state's different. So they were only allowed to have so many people in. And when it was more in a lockdown, then now how they were kind of lifting things as we're going along. And this guy was complaining. He was on his cell phone. He was behind me talking about, like, oh, there's this many people and blah, blah, blah. But then you also hear him complaining. I heard the mother and daughter in front of me. Then I heard people coming up and walking up, like, oh, the line's too long. But then they're also saying, oh, yeah, I went here and the line was this long. Oh, I went here. And then I come here, the line and I'm thinking, okay, so you bounced around trying to find a shorter line when all that time you could have just been patient, stood in the line you were originally at, and you could have already been in the store already.
Exactly.
That's so to me, I was just thinking, like, I felt like saying something, but at the same time, again, I'm not confrontational. I just think, like, these people, are you not listening to yourselves? You're just bouncing around when you would have already been in that store.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
then this couple came up, same thing. Like I said, they decided, oh no, the line's long. Let's go. It's longer than, and I can't remember what store they said. They go, let's go to this store. And I'm thinking, okay, so, and I knew exactly where, because Albuquerque's not that big. And
hmm
I actually live in, like, the main part. Like, I'm actually in a good area where I can get everything in 10 minutes.
hmm
So they were talking about how, I guess, they were at Target. I'm like, Target's, like, not even a 10-minute drive. You guys come over here, wasted another 10 minutes thinking this line's long. And now you're going to drive all the way to the next Target, which is actually further up on this street. And you don't know if they're going to have a line. So you're basically bouncing around when, again, you could have just been patient at the first Target, and I bet you would have been in already.
You're right. You're absolutely right. And it's funny because another example is everybody has to check in with me, everybody, at the day job. And some people just say to hell with it because they're informed. Please check in at the front. So they walk off, and I love it when they walk off and they're sitting right back to me because they always do, because I don't chase anybody. I said, go ahead. And I love it when they walk off and come back and my line is even longer than it was when they left. That warms my heart. I have to be perfectly honest with you, because you're given instructions, but no, you want to do things your way. Fine, go ahead, and you'll walk off and you just come right back up. And now the line is twice as long as it was had you just stopped, stayed in, and got through it. Don't get me wrong, I get through it really fast, but
Yeah.
that's the kind of stuff that I'm talking about. And the impatient people are also the ones that don't like change. They don't like them when things
That
change.
makes sense. I didn't really think about that
Yeah.
part. And I think maybe that's why I'm the way I am, because um that is one thing that my last job, that was one of their main mottos, is like, you have to adapt to change, because we were always changing things. Like, we changed our motto, we were changed, like, different process and procedures, because same time I used to work in finance, so sometimes the government would change, like, oh, now the interest rate is this now, so you have to learn that. So I think maybe that's another reason that helped me be more patient than I already was. But yeah, like you said, I didn't think about that. People don't really like change, or it's hard for them to adapt to it. With me,
Mhm.
I'm just like, oh, just tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Yeah, move on. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I'm all about change for the sake of change is asinine. If you're changing just because you want to change it, if it's a positive change, not that I'm resistant, but I will make my voice known that this doesn't make any sense. I'll follow, I'll comply, but if it's asinine, I'll make it very clear it's asinine. But there are some people who they'll say, "Well, I came here 10 years ago for this service," and I'll be like, "Okay, that was 10 years ago. That particular service or facility is not here." And they are so flabbergasted by this. I'm just like, do things not change in your world within 10 months, 10 days, 10 years? what's the problem? But I came here how long ago? When my child was 2. How old's your child now? 17. What are you talking about? Things change. This is real to life. And I get flabbergasted when people look at me like I can't believe things changed. What do you mean you can't believe things change? It happens all the time. That's the way of the world. I just it's ridiculous, But impatient people, yeah, they drive me nuts. Now I think
Yeah,
about it, they
it's
drive me nuts. Um, I mean, can you think of any time where you felt impatient, but rightfully so?
um I'm sure there was something, but I can't think of anything right now.
Well, I have an example. Most recently, my vehicle has been in and out of the shop. It's been with Midas. It was with Midas 5 different times. The last time it was with Midas, they had it for 2.5 weeks. Couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. Couldn't figure it out. And every time they give it back to me, they said, "Oh, it's fixed," and then I bring it right back. It's not fixed. And the last time they had it for 2.5 weeks, I I got impatient. A couple of days went by, no word. What's going on? Oh, we're looking into it. We're calling a specialist. A week went by. What's going on? Because I'm taking lifts and Ubers. They're kind of adding up. Oh, well, we're doing some tests. A couple days later, we think we know what's going on. We're going to order a part, and then the only time I'm getting updates is when I'm calling them, and I began to get impatient. But I believe that's a version of impatience that is justified because they weren't keeping up with me. My car had been there 5 times. The fifth time. This fifth time, you've had it for 2.5 weeks. The last times were a couple of days. The previous 4 times you thought you fixed the issue, you didn't. And now you're holding on to. No, I understand. You don't want me to bring this back, and you feel some kind of way, but you're talking about me without my vehicle 2.5 weeks in Florida without a vehicle for that long is a nightmare. You don't want to work, school pickup, and believe it or not, no matter how cheap an Uber or Lyft may be, those things add up. If you're
Yeah.
taking 2 or 3 a day every day for 2.5 weeks, you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
that I will admit it. I was very frustrated, especially when they charged me the fifth time. They charged me the first 2 times, not the third or fourth time. They charged me the fifth time, and I was just like, "Are you serious? You're charging me. You didn't fix it the other 2 times. You already charged me 2 times before." They gave me some bullcrap excuse for why they had to charge me, but I got really impatient. I made it very clear that I wasn't happy whatsoever. I didn't go any further. I wasn't like, "Let me speak to your manager," or "Let me call corporate." I'm not that kind of guy. But that's as close to impatience as I got, and rightfully so, justifiably so, in my opinion. But certain things like that, yes, I can see why you're allowed to be impatient. We're all human. But what we're talking about is just like you're walking in impatient because if the minute something doesn't go your way, that's it. The whole day is ruined, and they have nothing but complaints. It's it's human nature. I get it, but we
Mhm.
can be better. You know, everybody can be better, and I don't know how you feel about it, but I'm pretty sure that if empathy it's a lot about empathy. If we all empathize a little bit more with our common man, with our fellow human being, with our peer, with our neighbor, I think most of the nitpicking, most of the impatience, most of the griping would disappear. But because we are all kind of self-centered, if not self-absorbed, I have my moments when I'm self-absorbed,
Mhm.
selfish as well, because I like to pride myself on the fact that I try not to be a hypocrite. I hate being a hypocrite. I hate hypocrites. Period. So if I'm ever caught in a hypocritical moment, like my world falls apart. I'm like, oh God, no. So, the fact that people don't find it wrong or embarrassing to be hypocritical, whether you're called out on it or not. You don't like this behavior when you're at work, but then when you're off work, you're doing it to somebody else. How do you not feel guilt or some kind of conscience? How do you conscious isn't doing something kind of thing? You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
That's what I'm saying. I just think that hypocritical individuals with lack of empathy and who are self-absorbed and or selfish are the impatient people. Usually, usually. What final thoughts do you have about or what can you tell the common the common impatient person? You have any tips and tricks since you have patience? What I mean, what do you do? You do deep meditation. How do you have patience? How do you maintain your patience? Because everything upsets people. I'm sure things upset you, but how do you maintain your patience?
Um, honestly, it one of the things that I used to like to do a lot, but it's hard because we're doing quarantine and people have masks. But I still notice I do it even now. I
Mhm.
smile. Like I'll be walking the store. People can't tell I'm smiling, but I'm smiling because I don't know. That's just me because I'm
Well,
friendly. I think,
they can see
like
it
you
from
were
your eyes.
saying, kind of close to you, like what you're saying is empathize, but also being friendly. Because like even
Mhm.
before this whole quarantine started, there was times where I'm just smiling and it gets you things. Like I would get free things, or I'd be like in the grocery store and somebody like, oh, did you want to go ahead of me? Oh, okay. And then they just like it's just different things, or I'm walking around and I'm trying to like get something and somebody would come up, oh, I can get that off the shelf for you, or I'm buying, the stuff at the store. Oh, well, have somebody walk you out. I'm like, oh, I don't need that, but okay. But I think that's one of the things. I think people should still keep smiling, even if people can't see it. And just kind of just remember, like, somebody out there, I know it's bad, but somebody out there has it worse than you. And you should just be
Yes.
glad for what you have. Like even at work, there's days where I'm just like, I get frustrated at work
Mhm.
sometimes. Um, and the first thing I think, and you can even ask some of my coworkers if we ever talk to them. One of the first, some of the first things out of my mouth is like, when I'm ready to go home, like, good, I'm cool. I'm gonna go home to my babies. I just want to go home to and I'm always saying that. I just want to go home to my babies, which is, of course, you saw one of them today. Just like
Right. Exactly.
that's where I'm always. And that I think like, okay, I have these babies at home that I need to be home to. They're happy to see me. I love them. I got to do me so I can take care of them.
Mhm.
Just like I'm sure like that's how you're the kind of person you are. I see how you take care of your sons because you're
Mhm.
like you're like, I'm gonna do me. I don't care what you think about me because all I care is about these two right here.
Mhm. Exactly.
Technically I have four, but so I think that's what helps me stay patient because it's like, well, I try to look at people and I guess in my head, I think like, oh, I wonder what they're going home to, or like, oh, wow, I noticed that person's by themselves, but they're buying a lot of groceries. Do they have a family they're going home to? Or maybe they're just being nice to their spouse, or I think like, or maybe they have lazy kids. I feel bad for it. Like I think that's what keeps my mind going. So I'm not impatient because I have like all these stories going on in my head. That's me. I might sound crazy or psycho
No,
by saying
no,
that,
no.
but
We
I
all cope however we cope, and how and whatever we do to make everything
it's
survive.
my mechanism. Just like when I was waiting to get my vaccine, it
Mhm.
was longer than what I thought it was going to be, but I
Mhm.
felt like I wasn't impatient. I was just jamming to my music. Then I was looking at other people. Like I was kind of mad at this guy though because he almost like hit me coming into the driveway because he wasn't paying attention and he was parked right by me. And for a while, I felt like getting out because he was just like right there. I felt like getting out, knocking on his window and saying, "Hey, you need to watch how you drive." But I thought, you know what? That's that's like wasting my energy. I'm just gonna keep sitting here. And then I thought, maybe he's on drugs, or maybe. Then I started going again, my little stories, like, because then he's all jamming in his truck, all with his hands. So I thought, yeah, he's not paying attention, so he's not worth my time. Then I started looking at other people in different cars, like, oh, I wonder how long they've been. I don't know. That's just me. Even though I had the music jamming too, my head's still going with little stories. The next thing you know, I'm up in front of the line, like, oh, okay, it's my turn. So I guess just as like people, I guess I don't meditate, but I guess people have their own different ways. So I
Yeah,
guess
you're
that's
right.
my way of being patient. I have my own little stories, and um, again, like even like when I'm at the store, I try to stay as friendly as possible to people. I still try to, I know we're not supposed to touch things, but there have been times I still
Mhm.
help people, like, oh, I had to help do laundry for my job. The machine broke down, so they had asked me, can you take laundry to a laundromat? for my job. I was like, yeah, I can do it. And then there was a lady, you can tell she was limping. So I said, oh, I can put your laundry in. And I actually helped her do her laundry too. And of course she was very grateful. And I said, oh, that's okay. I know how it is to have an injury, because she was waddling and she kept telling me, thank you so much. And I was like, yeah, no problem. Because like, well, you still have to be nice to people. And I'm
Yeah.
sorry, I mean, not trying to touch all your stuff. I'm just trying to be,
Get away from me. Don't touch my stuff. Get away.
I'm
How
like,
dare
I'm
you.
just trying to be nice to you. And she was grateful. So I still feel like people should still
She was
offer it.
she's like, what are you
even if
doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? Get away from me. What are you doing?
I think people should still try to offer it, even if they're not
Of
comfortable
course.
with it. Does that make sense?
No, yeah. I mean, kindness, especially now with what's going on with the economy and the virus and the social distancing. Kindness is probably the only currency that matters right now. So I absolutely agree. Well, we're about to wrap this up. Final thoughts on Impatient People, Charmaine.
I guess offer them a hug, even if you don't know them. Just say like, I know
social distance hug. I'll be like this.
I was like, I know you're quarantine. We're like social distancing, but you seem like you might need it. If you need it, let me know. I'm willing to hug you. I've said that. And honestly, I have said that to a couple of my coworkers, and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you. And I've gone out and said that to strangers, just to see what their reaction is. And right away, they're just like, oh, thank you. They don't get the hug, but they're like, thank you.
No, they say, get away from me. Ew, no.
They're like, thank you.
They take 2 steps back and they're like, thank you. Take 2 more steps back. Bye.
Although some workers at different stores, when I've offered it, they've taken it. I'm like, yeah.
Really?
Yeah, like especially mainly like the cashiers.
I probably would too. Yeah.
I'd be like, if you need a hug, I'll give you one. They're like, yeah, because at the same time, they're a cashier at like a store. I'm sure they're stressed out too.
Of course, that's a lot of stress. All right, well, thank you.
Offer it. I mean, all you can do is go home, Lysol yourself down. You're good.
Lysol yourself down. Perfect. Well, Charmaine, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This is great. Impatient people, just a little more empathy and get a hug from Charmaine. She offers them for free. You'll love them. You'll love it. All right, and that's it for A Friend with Issues. I'm Vibe. That's Charmaine. And remember, listen to everything, but believe only.
Got something to say? Email friendswithissues@gmail.com. This is an audio production of Vibe Revelation Studios, the cure for your common day. VibeRevStudios.com.